Welcome into the Fit Parent Podcast. I'm Jeff Dalzell, and it's just me today. You just get me a little bit of scheduling stuff, but also because I really just kind of wanted to run through this as efficiently as possible. And so today I'm going to let you know exactly what we're doing, and then we're going to dive right into it. So this is going to be as tactical of an informational, educational podcast as I do, where it's going to be just letting you know exactly some next steps. So I want to be talking about strength training today. So I'm going to let you know that that's what we're going to be talking about. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about variety versus consistency. And then giving you, because it's the end of 2025, I'm going to give you only 25 exercises that you need for the rest of your life. And so I'll kind of get into what it is that looks like, but I want to talk about it very quickly first from a principles perspective. And this is really all based on a quote from a great trainer. His name is Ben Bruno. He trains a bunch of celebrities and athletes and things like that out in Los Angeles, but he's from my neck of the woods. He's from like 3 towns over, and he kind of grew into what he is, and he's really well respected in the fitness community. And he has a quote that is kind of famous among trainers, which is effective strength training pretty much consists of rotating between the same basic 15 to 20 exercises until you die. Put another way, variety is the enemy of success when it comes to building muscle. And I want to give an analogy with parenting, right? Where if we are constantly doing different things, trying a bunch of new strategies with disciplining our kids or trying to manage the logistics of what it is that we're doing, we're going to fail because they're not going to know what to do, and they're not going to let themselves adapt to that new thing that we're trying because they know that another thing is coming. So why would I try to get better at that thing when I know that something else is coming? Think about a bedtime routine, right? If you were constantly doing a different bedtime routine over and over and over again, your kids would never get into that routine, and they would never let themselves get into that routine. But if you keep doing it over and over and over again, at some point they have to adapt to the plan, to the strategy, to what it is, because it's going to keep happening. And so they have to kind of figure it out. So the more and again, it doesn't mean you have to put a square peg into a round hole, but we do want to pick some things that we know are going to work. And I'm going to give you those in a little bit, and then just do them for a long time. And you mix it up to keep yourself mentally engaged. You mix it up if you reach a plateau where you're not making progress anymore, or you mix it up if something starts to not maybe feel as good as it could. And that's why there is a lot of variety within those same 15 to 20 exercises. And I'm going to give you 25. But the strategies that we can use within that, there's really infinitely many. It's kind of like cooking, right? There's a fixed number of quality ingredients in cooking, but how you put them together, the order which you do it, how long you cook it, whatever it is, that's where the variety comes in. That's where the interesting comes into play. So when we think about strength training, and I'm not going to get into why you should strength train on this episode, other than to say that you should be. I have numerous other episodes on the importance of strength training. The one that I would point you to is in the 20s or 30s, which is the one about strength training, which is the importance of strength training. And I also did a 3-part series in the teens, which was how to build your strength training program. I'm going to talk today about the exercises that we select within that, and then what does the variety look like. So it's going to be a little different than those ones that we've done. But strength training, building muscle is the anti-aging serum. I'll be honest with you. In terms of impacting your body composition, and hey, if I want to lose some weight, absolutely it'll help you, increase your metabolism. You'll get When you do lose some body fat, you'll have muscle to reveal, which gives you the lean and tone look you're looking for. It also helps prevent injury, makes you more resilient for falls and things like that. It basically combats all of the effects of aging. It keeps you independent as you get older, all of these kinds of things. Adults, you can make the argument at a certain point aren't the more dangerous thing is not that they're over fat, is that they're under muscled. And I'm not saying that we don't have, a body fat issue in Western culture, but we also have, in almost even more dangerously, an under muscled issue. So we need to be strength training. How often? Whatever it is, like 2 to 4 times a week, 30 to 60 minutes. Bunch of different ways you can split it up. That's not what I'm going to get into. What I'm going to get into, though, are what does effective strength training look like? Like, what is it that we're trying to do? Because for 10 years, I've basically done the same exercises and just rotated through them and done different varieties. And so we want to think about exercise in 5 categories, 5 movement patterns. And so with your upper body, you can push away from you, and pull things towards you. With your lower body, you can think about it as push and pull, or you can think about it as squat and hinge, which is like how I like to think about it. Squat is more of a knee dominant, where your knees move first. I'm squatting down. Hinge is where your hips move first, more hip dominant, and I'm letting my hips go back first. And then there's core / carry is the final kind of category of things. And there are other little things that you can be doing. So there's, you can be doing arm stuff. You can be doing, bicep curls and tricep extensions wouldn't necessarily, like, they can fall into one of those categories. Like bicep curls are technically a pull, but it's a one joint pull, right? You're only bending at the elbow versus like a row where you're doing multiple joints, your elbow and your shoulder. But predominantly, we want to look at these big compound movements, and you can put together a total body workout where you just pick one from each of these categories. And if you did 4 days a week where you picked one from each of these categories and you just did that, that would be a perfect strength training program. And you just did 3 sets of 8 to 12 on each of these exercises with 60 to 90 seconds in between, and push yourself relatively hard. That would be the most basic, but really incredibly effective strength training program that you could do. So the big thing, though, is within those categories, there are 4 to 6 good quality exercises, which I'm going to get to you there. But again, those 4 to 6 exercises are really what I call parent exercises, meaning that there are a bunch of, whether it's parent or like, there's a bunch of cousins of it. There's a bunch of different iterations of that exercise. So I'll give you a for instance. If I thought of a split squat as a for instance, there's a regular split squat. I could load it with the dumbbell in the goblet position. I could load it with 2 dumbbells down at my sides. I can load it with 1 dumbbell down at my side on the side that the leg is back. That's called ipsilateral. Or I could load it with 1 dumbbell on the side of the leg that's in front. That's called contralateral. I could do it really, really slow on the way down. I could add a pause or a pulse at the bottom. I could do it slow on the way up. I could do 1.5 reps. That's just one exercise done a bunch of different ways with the ways that we load it. But that's one exercise. But then there's also cousins of that exercise. So a split squat, I could do a rear foot elevated or a Bulgarian split squat where my back foot is up on a bench or a box or a roller. I could do a reverse lunge, which is basically stepping back into a split squat. I could do a walking lunge, which again, I'm stepping forward, but I'm eventually getting into a split squat position. And with all of those, I could load them with dumbbells, with kettlebells. I could have a safety squat bar. I could have a rack position with kettlebells where they're out in front of me. I could do one side rack. I could do the other side rack. I could do one up, one down. I could do it up a hill. I could go it down a hill. Like, I could any of these things are variations on that. So if you're like, there's only 25 good exercises, yes, there's only 25 good exercises, but each one of these exercises has 10 different ways that you can load it, another 10 different ways that you can make it more or less challenging based on tempo, reps, all of that. And then each of them has 4 or 5 different cousins of it. And so really when we're getting into it, I could program 3 years of split squats and split squat cousins and different loading and never repeat the same one. And so the idea that I need to constantly be finding new exercises is folly. And I think a lot of stuff on the internet is trying to make things that look really interesting when we really don't need to. Combine exercises that don't need to be combined. I do a reverse lunge and do an overhead press. It's like, no, just do a reverse lunge and then do an overhead press. And you could do either of those way differently. But how I set myself up, I can make the exercise more or less difficult based on a bunch of those different varieties. But then we get into, okay, what are those parent exercises? And I'm going to give you right now, I'm going to give you the 25, really the only 25 exercises that there are that you need to do. Anything other than this is superfluous and unnecessary. And if you did these and they're different variations, you could have a unique workout that you never repeat for at least 18 months, probably longer than that, without repeating any exercise a single time. And then you could mix and match. And so I've been training for myself for over 10 years. I've been training other people for over 6 years. There are some people who I've been training for that period of time, and I have never done the same. Like when I do a block of exercises for 4 or 6 weeks, I've never done the exact same one with those people, and I've been training them for 5 years. Now, they've repeated some exercises, and they certainly repeat these movement patterns, but we're not doing it exactly the same way anytime. But if you're like me, who I don't really need a ton of novelty, like I eat the same breakfast every day and the same lunch a lot of days because I'm like, I just don't want my brain to work. I just do the basic ones and I just find different ways to make them more challenging. I'm going to add a little bit more weight. I'm going to do a little bit more reps. But at a certain point, I've gotten to a point, and this is not meant to sound arrogant, it's not the right word, but not to be self-aggrandizing. But with some of these exercises, I've kind of maxed out what I can do for just adding weight and adding reps. I could maybe do a little bit more, but I don't really want to. And so I have to find other ways to make it harder. And so that's where I go to different variations on the exercises. I do different variations on the pace or the tempo or add pauses or those types of things. So I'm going to go through each of the categories. I'm going to give you the 4 to 6 exercises within each of those categories that I think are the only ones that you really need. And you can look them up, but I'll give you some of the variations on them as I go. So for push, upper body push. So bench press. Again, there's dumbbell, barbell, incline, flat. You could do decline if you want to. High incline. You could do it with one arm. You could do it with both arms. You could do it alternating. You can hold one arm down while the other arm works. Again, just a bunch of iterations. So bench press, overhead press. Again, I prefer this with dumbbells versus a barbell, but dumbbell overhead press. Again, seated, standing, half kneeling, bunch of different positions there. Landmine press with a landmine. Again, bunch of different ways that we can do. Our feet are staggered. Our feet are level. We could do it with 2 hands. We could do it with 1 hand. We could do it with different attachments. And then push-ups. Anybody who says that push-ups aren't a good exercise just hasn't found a good enough variation on push-ups. You can do regular push-ups. You could do them on a TRX. You could do them on a barbell with the barbell sitting on a dumbbell. Call them seesaw push-ups. You could do posted push-ups where you're holding one hand on the wall. And so you're basically doing one-arm push-ups, decline, add weight, bunch of different ways that we could do push-ups. And that's really all you need for pushing exercises, those 4. If you pick one variation of one of those and you did, like if you did 4 days a week and each day you did one of those different types, you'll never need another pushing exercise. Pulling exercises, dumbbell bent over row. So this is where you're I could do a 3-point dumbbell bent over row where my hand is on a bench and my 2 feet are on the ground. I could do that with a staggered stance. I could do a gorilla row. I could do one arm, one leg row where I'm loading it that way. I could do a bird dog row where I'm in that position, like any of where my knees on the bench. Any of those situations where the dumbbell is hanging free and my chest is unsupported, I'm supporting myself with my hand, is going to be a great variation on it. Chest supported row. So this is where my chest is on an incline bench. And again, we could do this wide grip. We could do this regular grip. We could do one arm at a time. We could do a bat wing where we're holding one arm up. We can alternate. We could go underhand. Like, again, a gajillion different variations on that. Chin-ups or pull-ups, however you want to call it. Neutral grip, underhand grip, wide grip. You could do them assisted. You could do them weighted. You could do a lat pull down. That's basically a chin-up, but you're seated. You could do this with a band. You could do this with a pulley system. Any of those are going to be outstanding exercises. And then the last one would be inverted rows, which is when you're pulling your body up to the bar. And again, you could do this on the TRX. You could do this on a bar or rings. You could do this with a neutral grip, an underhand grip, an overhead grip. You could do this with your feet up on the bench. You can load it up. You can have your feet flat on the floor. You could do one leg. There's 1,000 different variations on that. Squats. I already talked about split squats. I gave you the example of that. Goblet squats or bilateral squats. So again, goblet squat, I can hold it in a rack position. I could do one arm rack. I could do a safety squat bar. I could do a front squat. I don't love back squats, but you can do it if you want to. It's a 2-legged squat, but all of them are there. But I like front loading it, so I prefer goblet, rack, barbell, those types of things. One leg squat. True. I'm on one leg, squatting down, trying to touch my butt on a bench. Again, bunch of different ways that we can load that. Step-ups are a variation on this, depending on how you do them. Skater squats. This is where it's kind of like a split squat, but your back foot floats off the ground, so you don't touch your back foot to the ground. You're touching your back knee to the ground, though. Lateral lunges. Stepping side to side. I could keep my feet planted. I could do them walking. I can do them with a landmine. I can do them with a dumbbell in a goblet position. I could do them with dumbbells down by my sides. And then the last one for squatting, or really it's more of a knee dominant, is a sled drag where I'm walking backward holding the sled and really focusing on locking out my knee with each step. When we go to hinge or hip dominant, single leg RDL or single leg deadlift. And again, we could do this with 1,000 different ways we can load this. We can load this with one dumbbell. We can hold it, or kettlebell. We can load it with 2. We can ipsilateral, contralateral. You can do it with a landmine. You can do it where your foot's planted on the wall. You can do it with a kickstand where your foot is down. You can do it supported where you're holding one hand on a bench. Bridge curls or hamstring curls. Do this with a slider. Do this with a physio ball. You can also just do bridges. You could do bridge marches where my legs are long, where I could do it with one leg. I could do it with both legs. I could kickstand it. Hip lifts. This is where so bridges, my shoulders are on the ground, or bridge curls, my shoulders are on the ground. Hip lifts, my shoulders are up on a box or a bench, and I'm lifting my hips. You sometimes hear these as hip thrusts, but I don't love the idea of thrusts because it's just sounds more violent, and we want to lift it under control. You could do this with one leg. You can do this with both legs. You can do this with your feet up on a box as well. You could do this with a barbell, with dumbbells. You can do this where you kickstand it. Sorry, I had a brain fart for a second there. Any of those are going to be great. Nordic curls. This is where your heels are underneath a rack, or somebody's holding onto them, and I'm like falling out forward, or this is like a 45-degree hyperextension, a glute ham raise. Those machines work great, but it's where your feet are there and your body comes forward, and then you're pulling yourself back up with trying to pull your heels to your butt. Again, you can do this in a bunch of different formats. You can use a physio ball. You can load it up and try to go down there. Sled march or sled push. This is where instead of dragging it like we do on the knee dominant, we're pushing it from behind, driving through it that way and extending each leg out. And the last one would be like a trap bar deadlift. And again, we could do this a bunch of different ways. We could do this kickstanded. We could do this with both legs. We can do this elevated where it's up on boxes. We can do this from a deficit. We can do this a bunch of different ways as well. And the last category, so believe it or not, we are 20 through at this point. We did 4 for each of the upper bodies, 6 for each of the lower bodies. And the last one is core/carry. So we could do kind of any sort of like a plank variation, but plank variations could be planks, they could be body saws, they could be single leg planks, they could be ab wheels, they could be fallouts on the TRX, they could be physio ball rollouts, they could be body saws on the physio ball, they could be body saws with your feet on the physio ball, like anything where you're in a plank position and we're doing some iteration on it where we're basically making the plank harder. That's what an ab wheel is. It's just making the plank harder than a regular plank. You can weight the plank. You can add weight to the back of you as you do your plank. Side planks. And again, all of the variations on that. You can do side planks with a press out. You could side planks with a reverse fly. You can do Copenhagen side planks. You can do side plank body saws. You can do elevated side planks. You can, I think I said side plank body saws, but you can do marching side planks with your inside leg. You can do starfish side planks. You can do side plank lifts. Again, hopefully you're seeing that there are just a bunch of different ways that we can do each of these. Palloff press. This is where we set up a band to a box and I'm extending out, holding it, or sorry, not a band to a box, like to a rack or something like that, or using a pulley. I'm facing it 90 degrees. I press out and the band or the pulley wants to pull me back in, and I'm anti-rotating. I'm working against the rotation. I can do this on one leg, 2 legs. I can do this kneeling, half kneeling. I can do it from a split stance, all of those types of things. Hollow body hold, or really this could be leg lifts. This could be hollow body rocks. This could be a V-sit. This could be hollow body with a pullover. This could be a V-sit with a lateral raise. This could be with one leg. This could be one up, one down. This could be hollow body, single leg rocks. A gajillion of it. And last one, I said suitcase carry, but this includes farmer's carry, or you could really call it farmer's carry is probably the parent exercise. And then one arm farmer's carry would be a suitcase carry where we're holding it on one side. You could do half rack carries, overhead carries, any of those different variations, one up, one down, any of that. So again, if I was putting together just the most basic workout program, and again, I've had series of time where this is how I did it, where I literally would just pick one from each category and I would just do them. I would either go one at a time or I'd put them together in like a giant set and I would go back and forth. There's a video, one of the earliest videos on my social media. If you want to scroll back 750 posts on my Instagram, you'll find this from when my twins were born. And shortly after the twins were born, shortly after we bought the house that I'm currently sitting in, and this basement under me was, it's not finished now, but it's certainly more finished than it was. It was totally unfinished and just cement floor and open insulation walls. And we had moved in. We had lived here for 4 weeks, and the twins were a week and a half old or something like that. And we had a 19-month-old Levi and was trying to get a workout in. And I had in that time, you'd imagine I got 20 minutes, I got maybe 20, 15, most likely. And so I literally set up in the back corner behind me. I didn't have all of my stuff unpacked, all my weights or anything like that. I had my bench, my incline bench, and I had 3 little 3 2-foot by 2-foot foam mats. I have actual flooring down now, but I had these foam mats that used to be in my basement gym back when we were in our apartment. And I had 3 of them under the bench, and I had 3 of them on the side. And I basically grabbed, and I had my adjustable dumbbells. I didn't even have my fixed dumbbells out yet. I had my adjustable dumbbells, and I picked 4 exercises that I knew that I could do with that same weight, and then 1 core exercise that I could do with that setup. And I just rotated between them as many times as I could until my kids woke up from their nap, which was about 18 minutes from, trying to get all 3 kids to nap simultaneously. And it was I think it was a incline dumbbell bench press, a chest supported row, a reverse lunge, a single leg deadlift, and a leg lift. And I think I did an incline leg lift or incline reverse crunch where my back was on the bench. And I did so many iterations of workouts like that. And I still do them when I'm crunched for time. Let me just pick one exercise from each category and let it rip. And I can do that over the course of the week where I do it. If I'm doing like the most basic way that I program strength training for a lot of people when I'm first starting out with them, and we're doing total body workouts, which is what I do for most people when they're starting out, because for parents, total body workouts are the most flexible. You're able to move them around a little bit easier. If you miss one in your week, it doesn't derail your schedule like doing a push-pull leg split might, or an upper body lower body split might, because if you miss one of your upper body days, like you're trying to play catch up. But if you miss one total body day, you just miss it and get back on track. But the way that I do that is I group together a lower body and upper body and a core, and then a lower body and upper body and a carry or another core. And that's the whole workout. So they might do upper push, squat, core, upper pull, hinge, core. 6 exercises, 3 sets of each of those little groupings, 8 to 12 reps, depending on what the exercise is. A little bit of rest in between, but just kind of transitional rest as we go. And it might sound super simple, and it is. Because complicated is not the goal. What's the phrase? It's something like amateurs complicate, professionals simplify. If you want to be successful, make it as simple as possible. Like we don't need to have super crazy logistical stuff, but like if I know, hey, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to do a split squat variation. Because remember that success is 20% what you do and 80% how long you do it. So if I can make it simple enough for me to do it, and then I just keep doing it for a long time and get slightly better at it every single time, then I'm going to improve. Because what happens when we do the same exercises over and over and over again? Our body is forced to get better at them. This is the internal narrative. This is the internal dialogue of your muscles, right? You do a chest supported row with 25 pounds for 10 reps. And your body goes, that was kind of hard. I don't really like doing that. Your back muscles are like, that was kind of challenging. I'm not a huge fan of that level of challenge. But she's never really done that before, so it's probably just a fluke. I'll let her know. Like I'll be sore for a couple days, let her know that I didn't like that, and she probably won't do it again. If a week later you come back and you do them again, and let's say you do the same amount or maybe a little bit more, you do 25 pounds for 11 reps this time, or 10 reps again even, and your body goes, that crazy lady, I told her that I didn't like that. I told her that was hard. I made sure that she knew about it. I yelled at her for 2 days about it, and she still came back and did it again. I don't like that at all. I don't want to feel that way again. Like that was too hard. I don't want to do that hard thing again. Not a fan of doing that hard thing. So I probably need to make sure that it's not as hard next time. So let's recruit some of the supplies that she's throwing down Gullet Alley. Let's take some of this protein, some of these carbs, some of these fats. Like let's rebuild this muscle a little bit. Let's come back a little bit stronger, because if she tries to do 25 reps or 25 pounds with 11 reps on this again tomorrow or next week, I want to be ready. And then you show up. It's the next week and you start doing it and you're on rep 9, 10. Your body's like, this chick thinks that I'm not ready for this. I'm ready. And then you go to 12 reps and your body goes, son of a gun. This guy, he just keeps on doing it. And I don't want to do that again. I'm going to get better at it. And so it builds that muscle again. And this is maybe a little bit silly the way that I'm describing it, but this is literally what muscular adaptation is when you progressively overload the same exercises. But if that same person does the chest supported rows the first week, body yells at you and doesn't really come back stronger, the next week you do something totally different, your body goes, see, I didn't really need to get any stronger because it wasn't really, it's not something that we're going to do all that often. So it's not a big deal. Think about anything that you do in your life, right? You're likely going to be bad at it at the beginning. You're going to be bad at it for a while. And it's just a matter of like, can I keep doing it? Think about bedtimes with your kids. Like if you just, the first time that you did a routine with your kids and it didn't go particularly well and they threw a tantrum and had a hard time and all of that, and then you just never did it again, then you wouldn't know if it was the routine or not, or if it was just because it was new. So finding some exercise that you can just stick with. And again, those are the 25 that you need. That's it. You can pick and choose, mix and match however you want to do, but you need to be doing all or most of those over the course of, let's say, 3 months of training blocks. You should hit every single one of those. Over the course of a week, you should be hitting at least half or, 40% of those, 30%. You just pick a couple and put them together. Don't overthink it. Don't magically do it. But if you're finding that you're doing workouts that are random, or you have a coach or a trainer, you buy a program that you're like, I don't even know what this exercise is, and it's complicated for the sake of complicated. It's interesting for the sake of interest, then it's not necessarily making you better. But if all I have to sell you is my programming, like my workout programs, like if that's what I was selling you, I would have to come up with new exercises. Because at some point you would stop paying for workout programs that are the same 25 exercises. You'd be like, Jeff, you're doing the same stuff over and over again. But variety is the enemy of success in really everything, but particularly when it comes to strength training. And I get a lot of people who are like, this is boring. This is boring. And I'm like, yeah, I'll try to make it interesting. I'll try to keep you on your toes. But good strength training is boring. Good nutrition is boring. Good parenting is boring in a lot of ways. But when you do the boring, this is the key. And this is my final kind of take on this. And why are we doing the boring? And then we'll finish. I'm going to finish pretty quick here. Why do we do the boring? If we do the regular stuff boring, then it creates the space for us to do the interesting things that we really want to do. If we're boring with how we do routines when it comes to parenting, if we do bedtime routines the same way every single night, if we do dinner time routines the same way every single night, if we do getting ready or whatever it is, if we do discipline the same way every single time, it's going to feel boring. And my kids, and I'm not great at this at all, but my kids get frustrated when I try to do this sometimes. They're like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, I know you don't want to do it. But by not having to deal with the fallout of the new, by not having to teach them something new, I'm able to, and we're able to create space to do cool things because we're not constantly trying to to do new things that we actually want to do because we've created the space ahead of time. It's like if you prep your kids to go to the museum or the park or the zoo or whatever it is, you're in the parking lot, you're like, hey, remember, these are the rules, these are the expectations, these are the boundaries. And then if they go outside of that, you just do it. Momentarily, it's going to be boring and not fun. But if we continue to do that, then we create space. When we went to the zoo this past summer, I was like so pleasantly surprised with how well our kids did at the zoo. And I was like, oh, this is a byproduct of just doing boring stuff over and over and over again. Now we have the flexibility to go and do more interesting things. And I want to continue to challenge us to do more interesting things, but we have to continue to do the boring stuff really, really well. Nutrition. There's a reason why I eat the same thing for breakfast and lunch every day and a lot of the same dinners. It's because I don't need a ton of variety in that, because I want my variety and my interest in the things that I really want, which is pizza or margaritas or cheesecake. I want to get my variety there on the things that I really want. So I do the boring, regular stuff. I do that really boring, which allows me to do the things that I really want to do from a nutritionist perspective. When it comes to training, I do my training boring. And I do it just interesting enough to keep myself from hating it and keep myself showing up. But I do it so that I can do the things that I really want to do. And that's where I get my variety. That's where I get my interest. I do it so I can wrestle with my boys and chase them at night from 5:45 to 6:10, 6:15 every night. I am chucking my boys around the house. And they are jumping on me and tackling me and all this kind of stuff. I want to be able to do that without worrying about getting hurt. I had a buddy who was like, "Hey, do you want to come play flag football?" I haven't played football related things in half a decade, at least. I have no concerns that if I go do that, I mean, I might be sore the next day, but it's not going to mean that like I'm going to get hurt besides something fluky, because that's what I want to go do. So I do the boring stuff, which gives me the space, the freedom, the ability to do the interesting stuff. But we don't need to get our interesting in everything. We don't need to get our interesting in, like, think about business. Like, I do the same stuff for my business all the time. And it does get boring sometimes. But I know it works. And it gives me the flexibility to do other things that I want to do. So it's like, instead of chasing more interesting things within my business, which I don't like, I like what I do. I love what I do, but like, I'm not out here trying to be a $1 billion company, you know, like I'm like, that's not the end goal for me. I want to do a good enough job where I'm taking care of my clients. I'm helping people get healthier and all of that kind of stuff. And as a result, I'm able to pay for my family's life so that I can leave at 2:30 today. It's Friday as I record this. I'm going to leave my house at 2:30 and pick up my son and go visit my mom, who just had surgery. And I can take the twins' birthday off and go play with them. I could take all of most of last week because of Thanksgiving. I took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday totally off. It was Veterans Day earlier in the month. Just took it off. And I know I can do that because I just do boring stuff over and over and over again. And my business is still going to run. If I was constantly chasing interesting, I wouldn't have the flexibility to do those things. The interesting comes outside of the working hours. The interesting comes outside of the gym. But we prepare for the interesting with what we do in the gym. So do the boring, let it lead to the interesting. That's my take. If you want, and you haven't gotten it, I have a free 6-week strength training program where basically it's this. Like, you're going to see this. You can make it longer than 6 weeks if you want to. But I basically did 2 blocks, 3 days a week. So there's 6 total workouts that you could do. If you're doing twice a week, you could do workouts 1 and 2, then workouts 3 and 4 for the next month, and then workouts 5 and 6 for the next month. So that's 3 months. Or you could do it 3 weeks at a time, which is how I wrote it up. You could do it for 4 weeks. You could do it for 6 weeks. You could repeat it. Or you can swap out any of the variations that I said for those exercises here and go from there. If you want it, you can download it on my website. It's jeffdalzellfitness.com/guides. It's right there. Or you can send me a message on Instagram and just say strength training guide, and I'll send it to you myself. Or if you want more help, where the biggest thing that I do, and this is the final piece that I tell people, the least interesting thing that I do as a coach is write your workouts for you. I do write your workouts for you, and I help you find the exercise. We figure out the exercises that are going to work for you, that are going to challenge you, that are going to keep you interested and aren't going to hurt and are appropriate for what it is that you're going to do now. And then you show up and the workout is written for you. You know exactly what to do, how many reps, all that kind of stuff. I also progress your workouts appropriately, where I say, hey, you did 8 reps with 10 pounds. Let's try for 9 reps with 10 pounds, or let's try for 6 reps with 15 pounds. And I give that prescription for you. I'll check your form and make sure that you're doing it. But the writing of the workout is the least interesting thing that I do. It's an important part of it, but the thing that I do that actually changes things for people is the other 23 hours of the day. What are you doing from a nutrition perspective, from a recovery perspective? What are you doing to set yourself up to actually get to the gym? Because it's oftentimes not that we're in the gym consistently and we're not doing the right stuff. It's that 20% of what you do, 80% how long you do it. We're just not as consistent with it as we need to be. But I do write your workouts for you, 100%. Custom built from the ground up, tailor made for you. Based on the equipment that you have, if you're at a full gym, or I have some parents who are working out at home with their babies as their weights, backpacks with books. We'll figure it out. We can load it a bunch of different ways. Like, that's 100% part of what we do. But that's the least interesting part. But it's oftentimes the ones that people want the most. So I'm not going to pretend that it's not cool to have somebody write your workouts for you, because I still do it. I still have somebody who writes my workouts for me and coaches me through it, because I don't want to have to think about it. But you know what this person's doing? They're writing these workouts. Like, they're not writing ones that I couldn't write myself. I'm just getting it out of my own head. So I appreciate you listening. I hope that this was valuable. Again, send me a message, strength training program, or go to my website, jeffdelzelfitness.com/guides, and download the 6-week strength training program. Or if you want some help with coming up with a workout program that's going to fit for you within this, figure out the exercises, make sure that you're doing them correctly form-wise so that you're not getting yourself hurt, you're getting the most out of them, and all of the other stuff, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset. Stick with it. This is what I do. So you can send me a message. Just say, I'm in, or you can apply on my website again, jeffdelzelfitness.com/ forget what it's called, but it's go to Fit Parent Project or coaching with me or something like that at the top, and you can go from there. Appreciate you listening. This has been the Fit Parent Podcast. Talk to you soon.